stairs getting trickier every day? Do you worry about needing surgery for your knees? One of the most common reasons people seek out my yoga classes is that they think they have tight hips. What if I told you that in my decades of experience, the most underutilized strategy to ease knee pain or loosen hips really had very little to do with those two joints? Every step you take starts with your feet. If they're stiff or weak or can't move well, that lack of motion travels up the chain into your knees and hips. Welcome to episode number 30 of the Midlife Reset podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Gordon. I've spent the last 25 years studying movement and helping women just like you stay active and strong. Today, I want to share with you the secrets of keeping your feet nimble. Once you feel the transformation that so many of my clients have experienced, you'll want to dive into all the other amazing benefits that yoga therapy can offer. And this will be a little bit of a hands-on episode. You may want to pause and grab a couple things as you go through. And this might be an episode that you end up listening to another time so that you can move around in your space a little easier. And I think it might take a couple listens in order to really process all that we're talking about. So anyway, the things that you might find helpful as we go through this podcast episode are a tennis ball or a similar sort of structure, and maybe just like a little dishcloth, obviously dry, a little hand towel, something like that. Okay, so what's up with feet? If you can, slip off your shoe and just look at your foot. Can you see the number of little bones and joints in your foot? Let me see if I can get my foot up here so it's in view of the camera. There we go. So look at all the different moving parts. Your human foot contains 26 bones. They're divided into three main groups. You actually have 7 bones here in the ankle area. You have 5 metatarsal bones, and you can kind of see the bone because there's not much fat up here. And then you have your little piggies. There's actually about 14 bones in your little piggies. So together, the 26 bones in each of your foot make up about a quarter of the bones in your whole body. So it's a lot of moving parts for your feet. Your feet are such a small part of your overall body. They're not near as big like your legs or your arms, but they have 25% of the bones. So why did Mother Nature create such a mobile structure? Well, because historically, we did not navigate our world in Nikes. We were running barefoot over sand and rocks and savanna. Our feet were supposed to be a marvel of engineering and flexibility. Do you remember those old commercials where someone had a paintbrush in their toes and they were painting a picture? Well, that's a thing. It is possible. I mean, if you watch babies, their feet can do all the things their hands can do. So we were born that way. Let's do a little experiment. I'm not going to stand up, but I'll encourage you to stand up. And if you have your shoes kicked off, you can watch your toes do stuff. Like I said, if you're driving, not a good practice, but maybe later you can catch up on this episode. So watching your toes move as you stand there. Now, here's a little challenge. Try to leave all your toes down on the floor. Just lift up your right big toe all by itself. Super hard, right? But your muscles and bones were born being technically able to do that. But because we don't run around the savannah anymore, we've lost the wiring to our brain that remembers how to move just your big right toe. You can sit back down if you like, if you want to relax, unless you're doing your standing desk thing today. But why does this matter? What does it matter if I can move my right toe or not? Well, let me explain. Flexible feet, especially the toes, big toes are really important, and the arches. You actually have 3 arches in your feet. They act like springs. They absorb shock with each step. If the feet are rigid, that shock moves directly into your knees and then to your hips. Your knees and hips were not designed to take all that impact. So the arches, you have the main arch on the inner arch that we often think I have high arches or fallen arches. That's the arch everyone thinks of. But there's also an arch across the ball of the foot, that's called the transverse arch. And then there's an arch on the outside or lateral side of the foot. So you actually have three little bridges, three little trampolines that are supposed to be absorbing the shock from every step you take. So feet that can spread and flex and adapt keep the ankles stable. Stable ankles means better knee tracking and better hip alignment. Without it, knees can cave inward or twist. This stresses cartilage, ligaments, and then you end up with bone on bone. I have no connective tissue anymore. I need meniscus stuff, ACL stuff. All of that can be because of this wear and tear we've been talking about. Here's an example. When I was a kid, I just couldn't skate. My ankles just fell inward. I tripped over my own blades. And both of my parents were amazing skaters. My dad was playing competitive hockey 3 times a week, right into his when he was 73 years old. And my mom was a precision skater. That's where they all stand in a line and they whip around and they do all the choreographed stuff. She was well into her 40s and she was balancing on one leg and skating away. What an embarrassment to have a child that can't trips over her own blades. Anyway, my mom took me to the doctor because I was falling so much, and he recommended ballet. So here's me at 3 years old in my little pink tutu. I think the doctor at that point, way back in the 60s, recognized that I had weak ankles and stiff feet, even for a kid. And I think maybe the ballet lessons helped. My poor mom. Anyway, this brings us to an important point. Flexible, mobile feet give your brain constant information about where you are in space. This is called proprioception, and it is sometimes referred to as a sixth sense. So as a kid, for some reason, my proprioceptive intelligence wasn't really coming online as fast as would have been ideal. I wasn't graceful or athletic in the way that you might have hoped. Thus, the ballet lessons, that's what was supposed to help the proprioception. So when you set out to walk or climb stairs, your brain has been trained to tune into where that hovering foot is about to land. Did you realize you balance on one foot all day long? Every step you take, in fact. Many students tell me in yoga classes, I have no balance. Well, my reply is to those students, you couldn't have got here walking on your own 2 feet if you couldn't balance. So proprioception is a type of essential intelligence that I was struggling to develop when I was 3. It's knowing where your bodies are in space and time, almost an instinctive awareness. Now, how do you learn proprioception? Movement. And that's why the doctor told my mother to get my little tutu to ballet. Movement is the best teacher of proprioception. Experience is the best teacher, right? Now, your gorgeous feet are a marvel of engineering for another reason than just running on the savannah. The movement in your feet as you navigate that uncertain territory is feeding information up to your brain that builds proprioception. In fact, about 90% of your intelligence around where you are when you're stepping your feet one after another comes from your feet. Your feet are telling the brain where your body is in space and time. And that knowledge translates up the kinetic chain and helps your hips and knees respond quickly and stay strong in movement and preventing falls and other injuries. And yet, what did my mom do when I started to walk? What are older people cautioned to do all the time that's supposed to prevent falls? And yeah, I put quotation marks there, prevent falls. Yep, get a structured shoe. An income, not to pick on Nike per se, but this is tantamount to putting on noise canceling headphones and then trying to hear somebody talk from the next room. The information, the communication will be very muffled. And when you wear firm, structured shoes, you are muffling your natural feedback system to your brain. You're literally less intelligent and less stable. I know. We are bombarded with marketing messages about you need arch support and oh, you have pronation and goodness knows what. But here's the way God made you. Flexible feet. Now here's something else to think about. Do you ever sit on a park bench or sit at the local mall and watch people walk by? I do all the time. Clearly, I need to get a life. But how many older adults do you see? I mean, I have a professional interest. What can I say? How many older adults do you see who walk fluidly and evenly on the right to left side? Not too many. I know we all have stiff hips and sore knees, but why do we all get that as we get older? Well, to walk smoothly, you need your toes to bend. You need your arch to rise and fall, and your heel to move freely. When you walk, and I'm using my hand to kind of illustrate, you are ideally striking the foot on the outer edge of the heel, so the lateral edge of the heel. And then as you walk and push off, the transfer of force should go across the foot to the big toe, and the big toe needs to be able to do this kind of thing. It needs to be able to flex and bend and bounce you forward when you're taking a step. This is one of the reasons you have a spring in your step. So that's why lifting that right toe earlier was such an illustrative exercise because it shows how stiff we are and how not connected with our brain map to our feet. So to walk smoothly, your toes need to bend, your arches need to be trampoline-like, your heel has to move freely. If these motions are stiff, you will naturally shorten your stride. Your hips and knees will start with some of those compensations that we talked about. And over time, pain and wear and tear, they build up. Now, it's not inevitable, and it also is reversible. We don't have to give in to, limping and looking old and stiff. You can begin to address this right now. So can you grab your bare foot? Sometimes my clients find this easier to do lying down in bed, for example, but let me see if I can do this. Now, gently just start to stroke the bottom of your foot. Now, no pressure here, just stroking the bottom of the foot like this. Now, can you feel a tingle sort of thing or some sort of sensation? What we're doing here is we're activating nerve endings in the bottom of the foot. Can you picture like little lightning bolt type messengers zinging up to your brain saying, pay attention, stuff's happening. Now that's good because we want the pathways between your foot and your brain to be very alive. Remember, 90% of proprioceptive intelligence is coming from your feet up to your brain. It's going to give you better balance and more spring in your step. Now try a little bit more pressure. You don't have to do anything special. I'm massaging my foot down here now. And just, move your toes this way and that, just kind of exploring the movement of those metatarsals that we talked about, the three bones in the heel. Good, good. And then just when you're done that, you can let both feet rest on the ground, on your bed if you're on your bed. Now, what are you thinking about the foot that you were just massaging? I was massaging my right foot there. So in my brain, the right foot is going bing, 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 bing. There's lots and lots of activity in my right foot. I can really feel it. The little messengers that are zinging up to my brain are very alive. I'm not thinking too much about my left one. Okay, so now this is when you can get the tennis ball out if you want to. And if you have really sore or stiff feet, you're going to want to be gentle. But just take that tennis ball and start to roll it back and forth. You can do this in a chair or standing. Just make sure a wall is close by or a chair so you can put your hand on it so you don't fall. And just roll the tennis ball back and forth from the heel to the toes and back and forth. And then zigzag a little bit, going like a lightning bolt across your foot. And again, you can put as much pressure on that as you want. And then just try that. You can come back to this as often as you like, but then just stand or sit for a minute or lie for a minute and notice again that original foot, the first foot, so it'd be your right foot if you're doing what I'm doing, it's just even more interesting now for your brain. And then you can pause this podcast if you like and do your left foot now or your other foot. What about feet that are just, like blocks of cement? I know it happens, right? We haven't thought about feet as much as yoga teachers think about feet. So you want to start very slowly. You want to be consistent in this. It's a practice. Most of the tissue that you're feeling underneath, like when you do the tennis ball and the massage, it's soft tissue and it will soften. You're not dealing with, rigid bone for the most part. Now, speaking of soft tissue, we call that fascia. Have you ever had or heard of plantar fasciitis? This is an inflammation of the soft tissue in the sole of the foot, and it is very painful. So if you are dealing with that condition right now, don't do too much. Maybe that gentle tickling is all really that you want to do because it's in flare up. What's going on is the connective tissue in the sole of your foot is inflamed and very angry with you. So you don't want to start putting a lot of pressure on a tennis ball. Here's something you can do though that will start to help you if you have plantar fasciitis, and it's actually good for all of us. So this is where that washcloth comes in. Now I'm not going to change my camera angle today. I'm just going to use my hand to demonstrate. But you're just going to drop the cloth on the floor, just any old way. Then you're going to bring your foot over top of the cloth and kind of like a kitten uses her claws to knot her blanket before she naps. You're going to use your toes to knot the cloth and try to pick it up. Again, those people that can pick things up with their toes and then paint that picture, you're trying to, and what you're doing here is you're strengthening the muscles in the sole of your foot. The stronger the muscles are in your foot, the more relaxed and assured your connective tissue will be. So that's what you're going to do there. And of course, if you want to really look at your foot and ankle stability, your strength, your stride, you're going to want to do calf stretching as well, movements and exercises for your calves. Now, here's a protocol that I really recommend. I've been using it every day myself, and many, many of my clients have found really great results. It's the joint freeing series. I have it free on my website, and I will put a link to that under this podcast in the show notes. But I call it the miracle cure for sore joints because it really honestly is like magic stuff, man. It's really quite adaptable. I have a chair version, a lying in bed version, more active standing version, but it starts at the feet. No matter what version you choose, you'll be hitting this stuff with the feet every time you do it. And then, of course, it goes up the kinetic chain and deals with those sore knees and stiff hips and blah, blah, blah. So you're really going to want to look at that. I think it's a foundational practice for everyone, no matter what their fitness or age level is. So anyway, let's go back and recap. Number one, your feet are your base of support. Every step you take starts with your feet. And if they are stiff or weak or can't move well, that lack of motion travels up your chain to your hips and your knees. Number two, flexible feet are your shock absorbers. Those arches and toes, they act like springs, absorbing shock with each step you take. If your feet are rigid, like blocks of cement, the shock moves directly into knee tissue and hip tissue. They are not designed for that, my dear. Number three, alignment and tracking. Feet can spread and flex and adapt, which helps keep the ankles stable. Stable ankles is better knee tracking and better hip alignment. Without it, your knees could cave inward or twist, and that, as you know, will stress that soft tissue, creating cartilage damage, leading to perhaps arthritis. Ouch. Number four, flexible mobile feet give your brain constant information about where you are in space, proprioception. This helps your knees and hips respond quickly, stay strong in movement. It will prevent falls and injuries. And the fifth point I want to send you on your way with is your gait efficiency. Remember we talked about watching older people at the mall? They don't walk smoothly because their toes are not bending right, or their arches aren't really springy, or their heels are locked. If those motions are stiff, your stride will shorten, your hips and knees will compensate, and that's where pain comes in. So, to address these issues, do take up a daily practice of paying attention to your feet. Walk barefoot as much as you can. And I've shared these things right now, but there are lots and lots of options. I do recommend strongly that you look at the free Miracle Cure for joint pain. That's a free video course. It gives you those different options for different times of day or different abilities. I do the practice myself. And at 62 years old, which I am now, when I'm with my peers teaching yoga and people look at what I can do with my feet, they're like, oh, wow, well, you're a yoga teacher. Yeah, I'm just a regular kid that had to go to ballet at 3 in my pink tutu because I fell over so much. I've worked hard to get this proprioception and work those feet. So you can do it too. Do you have any more questions about your feet? Well, please let me know. Believe it or not, I love talking feet. Until next time, please subscribe to this podcast. Let me know if you have any topics you would like me to cover, and do your joint freeing every day. Have a great afternoon. Bye, everybody. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, you'll really want to come to my live Q&A. This time, we do them every month. I'm going to be telling you what I do in the wee hours to get back to sleep. So if you're a midlife woman struggling with sleep, please register. October 22nd, 7 p.m. I'll put the link in the show notes. See you soon.